I saved my sister from a broken childhood, and she turned her back when I needed her. Now she's pushing for reconciliation, and my friends and girlfriend keep pressuring me, but I can't bring myself to let it go. My sister, 26, from a young age has had only one person to rely on, and that person was me, 29. We come from a broken family with one parent that was only around till I was 5 and the other who was stuck in a cycle of addiction. Because of our situation, I grew up very quickly and shielded her from as much as I could. She obviously was aware of what was going on, but she was not in the crosshair. I started with stealing from our mother to make sure we had food and bills were paid. I got a part-time job at 13 because we couldn't rely on our mother, and when I graduated, I immediately got 2 jobs and we moved out. I had to push my sister through high school. She wasn't an easy teen for obvious reasons, on top of going month to month, trying to get as much money together to pay our bills. At 19, she finally graduated after being held back a year. She changed her tune a lot, and she started working as well and had her own place when she was 21. I finally got a shot to do something for myself and got a degree. As a result, I got a much better job, but unfortunately that was right before the pandemic hit, so I pretty much went from hire to fire as I was a new hire. Now, the reason I am saying all that is not to pat myself on the back, but to stress why my reaction is the way it is. I was out of work, on the brink of losing my apartment, and only had one person who I expected I could turn to, my sister. She was recently married, and she was living with her husband, and I asked if I could stay a few weeks, at most a few months, until I got a new job, and the answer was a no. I was taken aback, but it remained to be a no. A week or 2 later, I was kicked out of my apartment. I asked again, and it was a no. At this point, I am homeless, and the only reason I didn't end up sleeping on the damn street was because I could crash at a few friends until I got a temporary job. I rented a room with a bunch of roommates for a while, eventually got a job in my field again, and am now doing fine. That said, I have not spoken to my sister since. She has called, messaged, banged on my door, sent crying voice messages, apologized dozens of times, tried to explain herself, tried going to my job, tried going to friends, everything. I haven't said a word to her. It's been over a year now. She recently had a child, and she is still desperately trying to reach out. She claims her husband refused to let me stay. He even reached out several times to beg me to reach out, but to me, the one time I need her, she basically tells me to F myself. I feel like it was the last push I needed to just end that chapter of my life. I feel bad, but just not bad enough, I guess. Even my friends and my girlfriend are on my case that I should forgive her and that they understood it at first, but now think I'm being an asshole. What would you guys do? Best comments. Your friends and girlfriend need to back off when this isn't their situation. You decide what you want to do here. They have zero say in the matter. I completely get your anger. You at your lowest point needed help after spending your entire life helping her up, and she said, nah, that inconveniences me. I'd be upset too. The hardest part would be trusting her again, because she's already shown she isn't trustworthy. I'd send your sister one message telling her that you aren't closing the door on ever having a relationship with her, but you need her to back off and give you the time and space to work through your feelings of betrayal. That you will reach out to her when and if you are ready to, and not a minute before, and the more she pushes, the less you want to be around her. Some part of me is skeptical about why your sister suddenly wants you back in her life now that she has a baby. Is it for babysitting, sharing baby expenses, or wanting you to play the happy, generous uncle? If she were truly feeling guilty, she would have reached out much earlier. It also seems like she only contacted you once you were back on your feet. Her husband asking you to forgive her is suspicious too. If he was really the reason for her initial refusal, why the sudden change? I bet he was just a scapegoat your sister used. I would go with your gut. If you don't want a relationship with her, don't fake it for other people because you need to worry about yourself for once. You raised her, gave her food, education, and the only time you asked for a favor, she left you homeless after everything you did for her. I don't know if I can move on from that. You know you can never rely on her for anything. There could be ulterior motives why she wants you back in her life. Honestly, you sound like such a great person. You really need to do what's best for you. Update number 1, 8 days later. First, to answer a couple of questions that I was unable to answer, along with addressing some incorrect comments in the previous post, yet I saw asked quite a few times. Number 1. The first few no's were without reasonable explanation. I was not aware of her given reason that her husband was not okay with it until later. Number 2. She did not know she was pregnant when she declined, and most of it happened before she would have even been pregnant in the first place. Number 3, a lot of advice and comments seem to be from the perspective of functional families with a functional family structure. That is not the case here. The primary reason I am so gutted about this entire situation is exactly that this isn't a case of, well, I don't want my cousin to stay in my house. He can stay somewhere else. This is a case of me having sacrificed my entire youth and a significant portion of my early adult life for someone that I played no part in creating or have any parental responsibility for, and the first and only time I ever asked her to do something for me, as the only person I could reasonably fall back on, and her not doing that. That's more than a familial spat. That is a straight-up betrayal. That's also an answer to the people saying that she owes me nothing because I chose to be a parent. Anyway, with that out of the way, I decided to follow some advice given by several people. I told my girlfriend and the friends who involved themselves or were involved by my sister to back off or to lose my number. They do not understand my perspective, and they likely never will, and I need to get that through my head as I have a tendency to talk about my life as if it is a standard, but it is a standard only to me. Luckily, most people don't go through any of that. I obviously had a longer and face-to-face conversation with my girlfriend and with individual close friends, but it boils down to that. One friend kept pestering me about it, and I ended up dropping him as a friend, but my girlfriend was apologetic, and most friends were either apologetic or said they'd drop it. I ended up writing a long email to my sister, and while I will not copy and paste the entire thing here, as it contains a lot of personal information and far more horrible stuff that I am unsure will even be allowed on a sub like this, it more or less boiled down to me explaining to her how her refusal to take me in for what ended up being a few weeks made me feel, and I detailed a long list of things I'd done to take care of her. I ended up finishing my email telling her that even if I take her version of the story as truth, and her husband is the cause of me not being allowed to stay, that it is entirely irrelevant to me, because that just means she didn't fight for me at all. I also informed her I have no interest in meeting her child as of this moment, and I have no interest in reconnecting with her, and if that changes in the future, I'll be the one to contact her. I told her to let this be a lesson to her, as it has been a painful lesson to me. Boiled down, I have decided to move on and keep the door on the tiniest of cracks. She has responded a lot since that moment. She seems unable to accept it, but I have not responded since. I don't have anything else to tell you, I am afraid, and since the sub only allows one update, well, it is what it is. Again, thank you all for taking the time to respond to my post, and thank you all for your insightful replies. Best comments. You did what I'd have done in that situation. She turned her back on you the one time she could have shined and showed you how much she appreciated what you did for her, that she had your back as you've had hers. Her actions, or lack thereof, said everything there was to say. I don't have any more comments other than good luck and Godspeed. She's saying her husband was the reason she didn't let him stay at her place. Give me a break. If she really wanted to help, she would have made it work. Blaming her husband is just an excuse. And for those arguing that just because he raised her, she doesn't owe him anything, technically true, she doesn't. But it's during tough times that you find out who you can actually count on. Nobody's saying she has some kind of lifelong debt, but this was her chance to show she cared by stepping up and to a nice thing for him after he sacrificed a part of his life for her.